Welcome to another Webflow workshop. I'm your host, Nelson. This is a good one. This is one I've been waiting for a while now. The topic this week is getting started in the web design industry. It is a crazy industry. It's never ending. There's always something new to learn every day, new technologies we have to figure out, new techniques as far as human-centered design and whatnot. But if you get interested in this, how do you get started? Everyone has a different life path. Everyone gets into web design either early or late in their life, and there's so many ways to get into it. But the great thing about web design is that anyone can get into it, because as long as you have a computer and a internet connection, you're all set. You just got to start learning how to code and start learning how to design and whatnot. And yeah, I have a special guest for you guys this week. His name is Mike Locke. If you're not familiar with Mike Locke, he is a YouTuber. He has been doing the YouTubes since February 2009, and he has an impressive resume. Started back in. I'm looking at his LinkedIn right now. Started with Thomas Reuters all the way to Cars.com, Fox Media, Yahoo, CBS Interactive, and now he's a lead UI UX designer. So now that I gave you as much background info as I can, hello Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate. First off, I always like to do this when I'm watching other interviews.
Yeah.
I have to thank the folks who are listening. So appreciate.
Yes.
Shout out to all the guys who are tuning in. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he always preaches, appreciate even the one subscriber or that one person that's watching. So
Yes.
shout out to all you guys. What did you ask me, Nelson? I forgot. Did you want me to just introduce myself and just start off there?
Oh well, it's your floor, because I introed you, and it's up to you how you want to go through this. But you know what? How about this? Let's break the ice. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So I'm
Yeah.
really good. I'm really good. I started using Webflow not too long ago.
Yep.
You pinged me on Twitter. You were like, "Hey, Mike, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." But
Yeah.
I've been using Webflow for about 6 weeks or almost 6 weeks or so, and I love it. So we'll talk about Webflow in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for responding to my tweet. And yeah, I've seen some of your videos in the past, for motivation and whatnot in the web design industry. And when you tweeted out, "Hey, I'm using Webflow," I was like, "Whoa, yes, I want to talk to him. Oh my god, yay!" And
Oh,
so,
so you saw my YouTube videos prior to
oh
that
yeah,
tweet? Oh, okay.
even prior, before I was employed at Webflow. And
Oh,
so,
okay. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm always it always like sort of humbling when I run into somebody and they're like, "Hey, you're on YouTube, or you're that guy on YouTube," and I was like, "Really? You watch my videos?" And I'm like, "That's pretty cool."
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
a
my
great
wife, yeah,
it's a great feeling.
yeah.
So a little bit more about you. For people who don't know, actually, I already gave you your intro, but first question, how did you get started in the web design industry?
So I got started back in what? I'm 40 years old now. I got started back when I graduated high school in '93. I went to college, CSUN, Cal State University Northridge, out here in LA area, and the internet was just starting to boom around '94, '95,
Yeah.
and so it was very early. Web design was not even a thought in my mind, and around going to school, I knew I was I liked graphic design, so that was my major. But I'm like one of those guys who I really didn't enjoy school, like just
Yeah.
learning other curriculum like calculus and whatnot. And so I guess you can say I dropped out, and I was working for a company called Circuit City at the time, which is like Best Buy.
Yeah.
And from there, do you remember Circuit City?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so while I was working there, I started to just dabble and kind of hustle in little things. And I saw this infomercial. It kind of inspired me to kind of get started in trying to make money in some sort of way, like through catalogs and things like that, and selling like little cheap products. Long story short, got I led to t-shirt design. Because I started to choose different type of businesses, and I thought I'm going to do a silkscreen t-shirt business, like sort of like t-shirts that you have on there, just single prints.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to do that out of my apartment. I had a studio apartment, and I needed a website for that business. And so around 97 is when I picked up whatever the latest tool there was. At the time, it was called Netscape Composer. I'm dating myself. It's way back.
Netscape, yes.
Netscape Composer. Netscape. A lot of people don't remember this, but Netscape Composer was actually the leading browser. Netscape was the leading browser at the time. And so I picked up Netscape Composer, and I was using Corel Draw to do graphics.
Nice.
Right. And so Netscape Composer is a WYSIWYG for those of you who don't really know what that is. And so I started to build sites. I was looking at Amazon and trying to copy those sites and try to build a site for my t-shirt business.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, my sister knew I was working around with these websites, whatever that was. And so she said, my friend wants you to build a website for her. She has a candle business. She sells like candles. And so long story short, she gave me $300 to build this website. And at the time I was like, whoa, I could make money by doing this. And that's when it all changed for me. And I'm like, I'm going to do web design for the rest of my life because this is fun and I can make money at it. So
nice.
So that was that was the starting point. Nice.
And so if it seems like you've been so inspired by the industry and like always wanting to learn, and like that's how I feel too. But then you got on YouTube and started in February 10, 2009. So you've got over 6 years of content. That is awesome. And now over 50,000 subscribers and over 5 million views for all your videos. Congratulations on all that. But what made you start a YouTube channel?
Let's see. Back in 2009, 2008-ish, I was working for Fox. I was making good money. And I saw a video. I was always like, as I was working, and I'm one of those guys, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I'm always one of those guys where I like to hustle, but I always maintain a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I feel, and it just kind of naturally grew for me that way. I always maintain a full-time job, but I continue to have an entrepreneurial spirit on the side. So while at Fox, I saw Gary Vaynerchuk's video on YouTube, and I was like, so inspired by his videos. I was watching his videos every night. And are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk?
Yes, I am.
Okay. For those of you, you guys just look up Gary Vaynerchuk if you don't know who he is, but he's very, he's very passionate. At the time, he was talking about, he was doing a video blog about wine. He was reviewing wines and stuff like that. And he wrote a book called Crush It. And he said, cash in on your passion. Basically, if you're passionate about toys or movies and stuff, you can do a video blog and start making money. You can monetize it at some point. Mm-hmm. And being the entrepreneurial mind that I am, although I'm working full time, I'm thinking, what can I do to supplement my current income? And I thought, I'm going to create a blog and I'm going to produce content, and hopefully I can monetize that one day. And at the time I was thinking like advertisements and stuff like that on my website. And so the only thing that I knew at the time, obviously my profession, which is web design. And he always talked about start a YouTube channel on things that you're passionate with. And so I started, I looked on YouTube and I saw other tutorials and stuff like that. And I start putting out small little tutorials, and one of them blew up a little bit, but it took a long time. It took like over a year or so before people to really catch on. And slowly but surely, like some little cheesy videos that I put up very early started to catch on, like this one called How to Design a Logo. Mm-hmm. And it started to get ranked high in YouTube. And once people found me there, they started to check and ask for more videos and stuff like that. So I started to put out more videos. And it just started to trickle into the point to where I thought, I was using Adobe Fireworks at the time. Yeah. And I'm still using Adobe Fireworks here and there, but we'll talk about that. But not too many people had videos of Adobe Fireworks on YouTube. And so that's where I started teaching and putting tutorials up on Adobe Fireworks. And then people started asking more questions, and that led into me producing a course that I sell right now on my website. So all that stuff.
That's cool. That's cool. And like I totally believe in and it sounds like this is what the path you took too. I totally believe in when you put out knowledge out there for free, it'll pay you back twice as much
Right,
in the long term, in the
right,
long run. And so it
right,
sounds like what you've done for your YouTube channel is that you kept on producing videos just to show how passionate you are about your industry, about your work, and then it just came full circle as the years gone by.
right, right. Yeah, and in all this, I love business. I love learning about sales and marketing and stuff like that. And one of the basic principles in actually making money in anything is to give away value for free.
Yeah.
If you give away value for free, anybody who is interested in purchasing what you have to sell, if it's good, they're going to taste a little bit from it, and so people they can watch my YouTube videos for free and gain as much value if they want. And if they're interested in learning a little bit more, if they want to more tactical advice and screencasts and tutorials, they could pay for a course that I have on my site. But if not, basically the whole idea is if you give away stuff for free, it allows people give away valuable stuff for free. It allows people to kind of taste it, start to trust who you are, and really get an idea on whether or not they like the product or not.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking at your YouTube channel. Lots and lots of videos. I'm gonna put it on the chat room right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had a pretty busy career,
Yep.
and not everything is rainbows and sunshine in people's careers. And so one thing that I like to ask a lot of guests is, can you share with us a low point in your career, and what did you learn? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn from that experience?
Like, to be honest with you, I don't really have too many low points, but I'll tell you this is because if you know me and people who know me, they know that I'm like one of those glass half full type of folks. So even if it's bad, I'm like, I can make the best situation out of it. And so, but one of the things that I guess I overcame as a designer is, and a lot of designers kind of deal with this, and that's the intimidation, right?
Yeah.
Like looking at other people who are maybe more successful than they are, or aspiring designers who are getting into the web design field, you're dealing with intimidation. And a lot of times you're scared to post your portfolio, you're scared to chat about your work, right?
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to overcome that. Like, for example, I started like the intimidation of like not having a college degree, whether or not I could get a job at a big company, right? And so it took me a long time. Like when I got a job at Yahoo, I was applying for the job for like maybe 5 months, and they would not reply to me until I met a guy who actually worked there, and who I worked with at a previous company. And I said, hey, dude, submit my resume to the folks at Yahoo. So I said, I'll buy you lunch or I'll buy you dinner or something like that. And he did. They called me the next day. And then when I got a job at Yahoo, they never questioned whether or not I had a degree or not. And so I was like, you know what? I'm able to work with like big tech companies and not feel intimidated. And they were impressed with my work. And I worked with other designers, and start seeing other designers out there. You get a feel for, kind of just through experience, how to overcome that intimidation.
And that's the thing, because I have a similar past like you. I just went to junior college for 2 years, and after 2 years, I noticed it wasn't for me, and I was able to get my first career job as a webmaster.
Right.
But yeah, I've always had that feeling like, oh my God, everyone's better than me. They have a college degree and whatnot. I'm just a junior web designer. I'm not that great.
Right.
And more, it took me, 5 years to finally realize,
Right.
oh, in this industry, it's so new, and you can't just put it in a textbook and think that the textbook is going to live for 2 or 3 years down the line. No, that textbook is old after 1 month, so it's really hard to teach this kind of stuff in a class, if in a traditional class setting. And so
right. No,
yeah,
totally. And I was going to say, yeah, that's one of the things that I think what the community that I have like on YouTube, and a lot of people that just follow me, that I interact with, they resonate with me because that's kind of like how I try to speak. I try to speak in real terms and just be honest. I like to say I'm not that guy, here in my garage, and Ferraris in the back and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? I have a full-time job. I have kids. I make pretty good money, but at the same time, here are the truths. You don't need a good degree. This is what you need to learn. This is what you have to do to become a designer. You have to do this, and that, and so forth. And so I just try to be honest about what you have to do to in the real world, not have it all fluffy and stuff like that.
Exactly. All right. And now thinking back, what tips would you give your previous self when you just started? What tips would you give yourself to say, man, I wish I knew this?
Right. What I would do for everyone, and I always preach this, everyone, and this is getting started in web design.
Yeah.
Pick up a graphic design tool, whether it's Sketch, whatever you have, Sketch or Photoshop or whatever tool that you like. I think Sketch is becoming popular, and I'm starting to use that of late. But go to YouTube, practice, just learn, UI design, right? Learn how to do basic graphics, basic shapes, colors, how to crop images, how to just basic layout, right? Start small, learn UI design, and then learn basic HTML. Yeah. I think basic HTML is important. And as we get to talking more about Webflow, I'll talk about my thoughts on that. But a lot of people ask me, Mike, as a UI UX designer, do you need to know how to code? And the answer is no. You don't need to know how to code. And the reason why I know that is because I work with a lot of people. Although I know how to code, and I started very early learning basic HTML and CSS and stuff like that, I work with a lot of people who are UX designers, and we don't code daily. We just design, we wireframe, we prototype.
But don't you need to understand some of the terminology and some of the barriers that web browsers and devices have to deal with?
True, in a sense, but at the same time, the way I look at it is what I always tell people is we have to choose a discipline, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people coming up today, and I know them over the years, a lot of folks are like me, where they like to learn how to code, and they're working in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But they're missing, they're spreading themselves too thin. In that they're learning how to code in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but they're not perfecting their visual UI design skills to the point to where it's really nice and pixel perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to spread yourself thin, you end up just being like a general average type of designer, right? You know a lot, but you're not perfect. You're not expert in one thing.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah. And so what happens is right. And what happens is a lot of companies, they look for, when they want to hire someone, they want you to be pretty good at UI, UX design, right? Yeah. Or if they hire you as a front-end developer, you should be pretty good at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, Mm-hmm. And so for me, although I knew HTML, CSS, and I know how to code from a front-end standpoint, I started to just focus fully on my one discipline, which is UI, UX design. Now, to your point, when I work in these companies, when I work in Yahoos, the Foxes and ADPs and stuff like that, those companies rely on front-end developers for the code.
Yeah.
And so because I do know how to code, I do work with them sometimes, and I add value and input there. But you could generally get started without learning how to code as a UI UX designer.
Yeah.
But having said that, because I separate the two, as a freelance designer, you're a one-man show, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So you need to be sort of up on coding, and design as well, because you're the only one that's going to be doing everything, you know. And that's kind of like where Webflow is becoming a big help. But as I've been using Webflow, I started to realize that my experience and knowledge in basic HTML and layout, mm-hmm. divs and containers and stuff like that, all comes into play.
I would like to commend you on the smoothest segue I've ever heard so far in this show, which is our next topic, obviously, Webflow. So yeah, the the reason why I tweeted you out is because you started using Webflow, and then you did a video about it on the same day or a day after I
Right.
tweeted you,
Right.
and you said that the video that the platform Webflow gave you goosebumps.
Right.
And for those who may have not seen Mike's video of Webflow, can you explain quickly why you got goosebumps?
Right. So when I basically for years as a long time person that knows how to code, code by hand, right? You say hand coding, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs to learn how to hand code.
Yeah.
And the stigma in our community is that WYSIWYGs are somewhat, not for the real professional, right? And so when I heard Webflow, I actually heard of Webflow maybe a year or so ago, a year and a half ago. Somebody just tweeted it out, and I saw, and with the emergence of so many tools, I just kind of see it, and then I kind of move on with my life, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew it was a tool that allowed you to build websites without, having to code. So I was watching this guy's YouTube video not too long ago, and he was using Webflow. And a lot of my folks who follow me on YouTube, they're always hitting me up. Hey, Mike, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Because if I don't talk about them, they'll ask me, hey, Mike, have you ever tried this tool? And so one guy said Webflow, and I'm like, man, in this 1 week, I'm looking at Webflow on this video, and somebody's tweeting me about it. I said, let me check it out. So I checked it out, and what blew me away is that I consider Webflow a real tool, in a sense that a real web development tool. I'll tell you why. Because most WYSIWYGs, and I don't really use them too much, but most WYSIWYGs are, you kind of drag elements, right? And you kind of like, it just feels cheap or very cookie cutter. Whereas when I opened up Webflow, it was like, wait a minute, I can actually code my site the way I want to, but without actually typing in code.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was the game changer for me. And so when I had a design, because right now I'm in the process of redesigning my portfolio site. I'm in the process of redesigning my membership site, and I'm all using Webflow.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I downloaded the free trial, and I started using it, and I was like, this can't be this good. Right. So I started with the little div, and I div container, and I added my background image, and I'm like, wait a minute. You actually you can't drag and drop things. You can't move things with your mouse. You actually have to position them, right?
Yeah.
With the properties and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a minute, this is actually a real building, like a real tool to build your website.
Yeah.
And then you preview the code, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is legit, right? And so it blew my mind in a sense that, wait a minute, this is something that I'm actually going to use. I'm going to try this out. So I spent the next few weeks, and I actually tweeted out, maybe it was like 2 days of me using it or a day, and I tweeted out, dude, I'm loving Webflow,
Oh, nice.
I said, I'm still early, but I'm loving it, right?
Nice.
And so the next couple of days I was using it, and I kind of felt it out to feel how real it was, because I didn't want to talk about something that I knew was going to be kind of cheesy, right? Something that I was going to just throw away. So I took about a few days, and then I posted a video. I'm like, dude, I'm getting goosebumps from this tool,
Oh, nice.
And right now it's amazing. I'm almost done with my portfolio site. I've actually been watching. I've been watching your videos, your tutorials and stuff like that. I just recently learned how to to do interactions, right?
Yeah.
Like when
those
I
are
click
fun.
Yeah. I was watching one of your videos on how to do interactions. Like I created this drop down thingy where, the icon spins when I click it, the up arrow, it spins this way, it spins that way. And I was like, you can do all this stuff with Webflow. And I was just like blown away. So.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I mean, the interactions is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the 3D transforms with interactions?
Yeah, I mean
that part is nuts.
Yeah, no, but like the stuff that I see that people do within Webflow, it blows my mind, right? Like for me, I'm a very basic, simple guy, right? Just the fact that though I know how to code, but I can use a tool to actually easily produce a responsive site, right?
Yeah.
It saves me tons of time that produces really good code. That's kind of like what I use it for, right? And even with static sites, I tell people start simple. Even with simple, basic sites, without all the 3D and information, you can still make $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of like my philosophy. It's like you could make money with simple, basic sites. And so for me personally, I use Webflow. Now I might gradually use it and start adding more interactions and adding little fun things, like background videos and stuff like that. And more interactions as I go, but just using it to build, let's say you're a web designer and you need to build like a simple 3 to 5 page brochure site, right?
Yeah.
For a client, you're a freelance designer. Using Webflow would be perfect, because you can, the way I would use it personally, you could actually buy templates if you want and work that way. But I would design my sites in Sketch or Photoshop or Fireworks or whatever, have my mockups, and then slowly build it in Webflow, piece by piece. It's kind of like what you do in your videos where you look at you take a screenshot from Dribble, right? And you'll say, let's build this in Webflow. Basic, the same thing. It's the same concept as me. I'm taking my screenshot and I'm just building it piece by piece, starting with the background image, header, and going down. So
yeah, it's so fun to use. And last question about Webflow. What features, I know we don't have everything and we're doing our best to have everything. Imagine putting the whole industry in a box. That's insane, right? But what features are you looking forward to that we could probably add in the future?
Right. One of the challenges that I'm coming up with, and as I mentioned, to be honest with you, I'm still early, still new, and I'm still finding my way around it. But as I'm building out my sites, though in the past, all my sites or my current site is on WordPress, right?
Yeah.
And I have a WordPress blog. And so my challenge is how do I, and then this is something that I'm experimenting with, how do I work with Webflow, but then still work on my WordPress, platform, right? Because a lot of people don't want to switch. And at this point, I can't switch from what I have in WordPress. But so what I just kind of like, I think as time goes on, teaching more people how to work together with Webflow and integrate it with WordPress. It doesn't have, maybe not an easy way, but just kind of that education there, I think is helpful, because right now the way I'm using it is, and I've taught this before, is like when you use WordPress, you always have to design first. You design your site and then code it in HTML, right?
Yes.
And CSS. And then from there, you can create custom templates in WordPress and use it that way. Or you can copy your code and paste it into your, modify your WordPress files.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And so for now, I'm using Webflow to code and build my site, make it responsive, do everything I want. And then from there, I'm going to take the code and paste it into my WordPress, page template. So like, for example, the index page, right? Or the blogging page, I'll create the entire blog in Webflow the way I want. Then I'll try to take the code, export that information or export the code and then piece it piece by piece into building my own custom templates in WordPress.
Wouldn't it be, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So wouldn't it be easier one day in the future if you can export your WordPress content and import it into Webflow?
Yes. So export, wait, you're saying export WordPress?
Export, how you can export the XML and whatnot of your database and then
import it into Webflow?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah.
That would be cool.
And so, and to be honest with you, for me, a lot of, like, I tell a lot of people, I'm still like, on the technical side, like the back end side of things, I'm still new, right? Not that I'm new, but I focus so much on the front end, learning UX design, learning UI design, what's important to users and stuff like that, that I rely on experts like you and other people to teach me how to do these type of things pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know what I want to design. I know what I want to build. and I know WordPress gives me this, and I've been on WordPress. How do I move it over here, or how do I, integrate this, and how do I use Webflow and match the two? So that's the type of stuff that I look for, and as more people begin to use it with WordPress and stuff like that, I'll continue to watch and just gain some insight on how people are using it that way.
Yeah. Okay, so
You know.
let's get some questions from the chat room. And again, if you have a question, just put it in the chat room, and we'll try to get to as much as possible. Also, if you're working on anything in Webflow, give us the webflow.io link. And also, yeah. So if you're working on something and you want us to do a quick UX critique of it, show us what you got. All right. First one. Dave says, do you feel you need to hand tweak the code after exporting? And I think you've already touched on this, but if you have anything to add.
No, so what I do is if I have to tweak, I just tweak it in WordPress or in Webflow.
Yeah.
Right. So what I've been doing is, and when I get it to a point in Webflow, in the Webflow browser, when I'm tweaking my stuff and I export it, if there's anything that I need to tweak after that, I go back into Webflow, tweak it again, export the code. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And just override the code, or just have a new set of code that I'm exporting. So to be honest with you, I always tweak in Webflow. I don't have to tweak it by hand, after the code is exported.
Let's see here, go down to Paulo. He has two questions, and I think they're the same. He's asking, is Webflow truly WYSIWYG with clean HTML5 code? And then he also asks, is Webflow a really WYSIWYG web application? Yeah, I think you touched on this already.
Yeah, I consider, in terms of back in the day, and I haven't used WYSIWYG for a long time, but when I would use, say, Dreamweaver back in the day, or years ago, I just knew that the code was a lot of garbage, right? You export it, there's all these little space tags and these breaking points and things like that. From what I see and what I know, you export the code, you can actually download the free trial, and it speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
When you use it a little bit and you look at the preview of the code with the free version, you can't export it, but you can see it. You're getting legit code,
Nice. Let's see here. This is a good one. Naweed is asking, and this is one that we all go through. Have you ever had imposter syndrome, and how did you overcome it?
What does it mean by that? Imposter syndrome? What is that?
Okay, so if you haven't heard, imposter syndrome, you say you get a job or something as a web designer, and you got in the door and you're like, oh my God, I got a job. And then you look around the room, and I think we have already talked about this in your career. You look around and you're like, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm an imposter. I shouldn't even be here. Why are they even paying me? I don't even have a college degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that definitely. Everyone goes through that. I've been through it. I'm sure you've been through it, Nelson.
Oh, yeah.
What happened, the only way to overcome that is through experience. Once you just know that everybody goes through that feeling, and once you get a job, you'll start interacting with other people in other titles, and you realize that they're just like me and you, that we have kind of similar backgrounds, right? We have similar thoughts, and we're like, wait, you're like a real person. You're not anything special than I am, right?
We're all the same atoms and whatnot.
Right, and totally. And so when I had this big idea when I started working at Fox and Yahoo, I started to see other people, and we'd go to lunch, and I'm like, hey, dude, you're just like me, Yeah. Prior to me having the job, I thought folks who worked at Yahoo at the time was on this pedestal, right?
Yeah.
And when I got the job, I'm like, I'm still the same person, and they're just like me, So yeah, you definitely feel that way. And what I like to do is, when I tell people, when you land a job, just be honest, talk about, and just don't try to sound any more professional than you are, or try to say that you know something that you don't. If you don't know anything, just say, hey, I'll check on that, in 30 minutes or an hour, I'll go to Google and I'll try to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everyone in the industry, uses Google. That is, I mean, like, there's
Right.
no professional who says, "Oh, I know everything, and I don't have to use Google. I don't have to use Stack Overflow or anything. I know every type of code in the world." No, there's no such
Yeah,
thing as
no,
that.
totally. When I was at look quick, when I was at Yahoo,
Yeah,
there was a really good designer. He was from Israel, and or not designer, but a front end developer. Dude was an expert in everything,
yeah.
and he was always on Google. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when I was working with, and when I was showing him our designs, and I showed him some interactions and stuff like what we need to do, he would go to Google, and then he would do it. You know, but he would search it, and he always referenced Google. Whereas back in the day, we had this big book that was called a HTML4 book or something like that.
Yeah.
And we use that as a reference guide. But today, people use Google. It's totally okay to use Google. You know, even
Yeah.
top developers. When I saw that, I was like, hey, it's open game. You know,
Yeah.
anybody can do it. So
I remember I was interviewing for the previous job I had. It was a phone interview, and they were trying to test me on my CSS knowledge. And
okay,
the guy, the my boss at the time, when he was interviewing, he asked me, okay, um, he asked me some easy basic CSS questions, and then the third question I remember he asked, okay, what's a pseudo class? And I was like, is that the one where it's just basic tags like the A and the
right,
body? And
right,
he's like, no. And I quickly Googled it, and I was like, oh wait, no, it's the colon hover, colon link,
yeah,
and whatnot. And he was like, yeah, that's the right one. How'd you get it? And I was
yeah,
being honest on the phone. I was like,
exactly,
I Googled it. And he was
right.
like, okay. Oh, and he laughed. And we had a good chuckle about it. And then the question after, he was like, okay, without Googling this. And so it's, when you show that you don't know everything, but you're willing to find the answer and
Right,
work on it, it
right,
shows more humility than, don't be a know-it-all. No one's a
right,
know-it-all.
right. Let me, and this is for people. People don't really know this. People don't know this who follow me. I never talked about this, but um,
Ooh,
what helped?
exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive stuff. Um, Not only that, I actually had a chance to. This VP wanted me to work at Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this before, but basically this VP actually wanted to hire me to work at Twitter. Not only that, I actually interviewed for Google and was offered a job, but I didn't take it because it was the Irvine position,
Okay.
which was about 70 miles
Ooh.
from where I live. And I wanted the office in Venice, which is about 30 miles
Mm-hmm.
from where I live. And I never talked about my Google interview, but I went through the whole process, went on campus. They quizzed me on everything on HTML and CSS and all that
Mm.
stuff, and on the whiteboard. And,
Yeah.
as much as I like to say that there's certain things that I don't know, I
Mm-hmm.
was still able to go through the whole Google process, and potentially land the job if I wanted it, and
Mm-hmm.
so I went through that process. And so I like to tell people, like, yeah, imposter, I feel like an imposter sometimes, but even people kind of put Google employees on this pedestal, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, if you work for Google or you work for this big company or this big
Yeah.
company, you know more than anybody else, and
Yeah.
so, for what I was, and for what I knew, for my job or that job at Google, it was like basic HTML and CSS, right?
Yeah.
Because you're an interaction designer, you don't really have to know JavaScript,
Yeah.
And so a lot of designers I know today, they focus a lot on JavaScript, but they want to be UI, UX designers. I'm like, dude, you got to choose one, you
Yeah.
know. Learning JavaScript is deep, it's good. It pays well, but that's front end development material,
Yeah. Yeah.
whereas UI, UX designer is all front end stuff,
Yeah.
and so
All right. So let's look at some. Hopefully that long answer helped you, Noid. But let's look at some Webflow stuff that the community's building. Here, let me share my screen. Let's see here. Screen share. Let's see here. Nope, that one. There we go. Can you see my screen?
mhm.
Okay, cool. This is Dee Fink Design. Oh, okay, yeah. This is Dave is one of our community experts on our forums, and yeah. So I'm just gonna scroll down and just let me know when to stop. But I love the hero row immediately, and the bouncing down arrow to tell me I have to scroll down for more information. Oh, great texture, background texture to stick with that feel of, you know, that this is handmade. ish.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What are your thoughts so far?
I like it. Is this a portfolio?
Yeah.
Looks good. Looks good. You know, one thing I tell designers, like for example, this designer here,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of people go through this, and I get a lot of questions from people that are in a print industry,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, Mike, I've been in the print design for 8, 9 years, you know, but I want to get into UI, UX design. Um, and so what I tell people like this, if this guy here is a big graphic designer, he does logos and stuff like that. If he wants to kind of expand his career a little bit, add more UI design work or UX design. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like this is great. This is what he has here. He's like a good designer. He's really good.
Yeah.
But there'll be when you start interviewing for top companies
Mm-hmm.
that willing to pay you top money, they're going to ask you about certain things. Like even though this guy, I'm sure he can do UI design work, he's
Mm-hmm.
not showing it on his
So
portfolio.
like stuff like let me see what you've done on a mobile app type of side,
Right,
or
right,
like a
right,
dashboard, or a web app
right,
dashboard and
right.
whatnot.
And I call those like when you get into the, and I consider it like I would say this. People, designers, the community, they'll look at that and say, dude, that is top notch. That's beautiful. They'll all give him thumbs up, right?
Yeah.
And he'll get a lot of praise and he'll be like, I have a dope site.
Yeah.
But when you get into the ranks where you're interviewing with people who have seen that for years,
Mm-hmm.
now they want to see what you can do beyond,
Yeah.
right? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
What are you doing to further your own
Right. So
education? Yeah.
exactly. So for me, like I tell people this, I love Dribble.
Yeah.
Dribble is like one of my favorite inspirational sites, but I don't follow illustrators because the people who are paying me right now, they're
Mm-hmm.
not looking for me to do illustrations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I may, like, let's say I'm an illustrator and I like to draw and do that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I'll do that stuff. That'll be like, I'll doodle and I'll have to do that stuff for fun. But for profession, I can't show that work because illustration might not be a high in demand market. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
still show it, but if whatever you're going after, if you're going after UI, UX design, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I like to preach a
Mm-hmm.
lot, like especially folks who follow me and they know I'm a UI, UX designer, focus on UI, UX design work, you know?
Yeah.
And you can still do logos and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but show more of that,
Yeah,
app
yeah.
development.
Always experiment and do something different
Yeah.
to show future employers or future clients that you are going beyond your own capabilities and learning. So yeah, great tips. Let's go to the next one. Alex. I think he's from Africa. So he has the endless safaris. All right,
Shout out to Africa.
let me share my screen. There we go. All right. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Nice slider. Great photography. Dude, that drop down.
Mhm.
Oh man, great job. Look at that. Love the color scheme. Scrolling down here. Okay, we got some cards going. Nice. I like the little squiggly line here. Great job. Infographic, beautiful. Or map.
Mhm.
Nice.
Very nice.
Let's check out this menu. Whoa.
That's dope.
I sat back in my chair. Literally, I
What
sat
the
back in my chair. I was like,
what
whoa.
the
What
left
just,
hand?
what is going on here? Okay, whoa. This is why oh my god. This is why I love web design, because there's always this like new experience
Mhm.
and it'll catch you off guard. Dude, Alex, great job, man. Oh man, a
He
full
did the same
screen.
stuff. But
Yeah, this is all in Webflow with interactions.
yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm always, yeah, you know what? When I look at the templates and I look at stuff like this, I'm always blown away. I can't even do stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for what
Yeah.
it's worth, it's better than what I could do. So,
And that's fine because like
Hmm.
always put yourself surround yourself with people who are better than you, because then you'll reach that next level on your
Definitely.
own. And then once you
And,
reach,
and
go
and
ahead.
right. And here's what I like to tell people. And I touched on this early in the chat. I was talking with somebody about focusing on essential stuff and non-essential stuff. And here's what I mean by that is there is a balance between non-essential things and essential things. Like for example, this guy is pretty good. This guy's legit,
Oh
right? He
yeah.
knows how to do all these interactions and whatever drop down menus and great stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there is a market of people that will ask me questions. Mike, I'm working on this drop down. How do I do this? Or can you teach that? And I'll tell them, dude, that's not essential to me.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is we can't focus on everything, right? Like this
Yeah.
guy who designed that site, he loves interactions and he loves that.
Yeah.
But me, I don't. That's not essential to what I do and how I'm making money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I don't focus on too much on how to create those type of interactions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So my message to aspiring designers is when you see stuff like that, you could admire it but know that you don't have to know that to make money in web design. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to know that level of expertise and visual
Yeah.
appeal. You can.
But it's great to set a goal for yourself. You know? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
no, it is.
just to get started, you don't have to know everything, but
Yeah.
getting started, you just need to focus on the basics, and then try a little bit different experiments. And then if what I like to do is I see something like Alex's site, and I like to reverse engineer it. And I don't know if you know this, Mike, but did you know that you can go into almost any Webflow site and look at their site within the Webflow Designer tool as a read only?
I saw a portion of that, right? Like the
Yeah,
people who share their sites, you can
yeah,
actually bring it into the designer.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was
Is
really cool.
so let me show this to the peoples. For example, if I have this one site, right, I can click on the share button right here and turn it on, and I have a preview link. And so that way I can give this preview link away, and people can mess around with the site inside of
Hmm.
Webflow without breaking it, because it's a read only link.
Hmm.
And, that's, to me, that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, Alex, if you can, please share your read only link to the
Hmm.
community and let us break it down, reverse engineer, so we can learn from you. Let's go
Right.
to another site real quick. I'm getting lost in the chat room. A lot of people. This is great. I think we have time for two more links. I'm just going to take this one right here. Verway Automotive. Okay. Nice. I like how the colors pop out. As far as the nav, I'm getting confused because it starts down here, and maybe it'll be nice. Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe it'd be nice if it had a sticky nav, and there it is.
There it is.
All
Hmm.
right. Okay, fixed background. I like that. This part right here seems the cleanest in so far. In my
Hmm.
opinion, I would stick with this type of. Okay, nice dirt
Yeah.
patterns
Yeah.
there.
This. So, okay. So this is how I critique sites.
Okay.
This site right here is well done, and this is what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that as somebody who knows about visual UI design, we could see this site and go, okay, it's good. It's not there's some little nick and crannies. There's some different font types that we would choose, right?
Yeah.
There's a different layout portions and stuff like that. But this designer actually is at a point to where, and I look back and I go, if I was designing sites, there he's it's good, and he's going to only get better.
Oh
What I
yeah.
would tell people like this is like you're going to get better at visual UI design, right?
Mm-hmm.
And visual and layout. So a lot of times when I critique sites like this, I don't critique it and think like, oh, you should do it this one way. You should do it one way. The
Hmm.
way I like to the way I teach, and this is why a lot of people resonate with a lot of my videos, is that I would say go out and make sure when you're designing your layouts, make sure you look at other similar sites that are, and sort of mimic those. You're not copying per se, but you kind of are. But at the same time, you're still using your styles, your colors, your treatments, but you're looking at how other sites are doing it, and that will improve your visual UI design. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I always say, like, copy other people for practice, and know, and as you're designing your sites, look at another site that is top notch, that is inspiring, and kind of mimic the way they did their about portion, right?
Yeah.
And the spacing, the font type, the just some of the minor details, because a lot of times as designers we get caught into our own style of designing, and then we might not have evolved to like the latest innovative type of look and feel. Does that make sense?
That's why I always tell people, experiment and reverse engineer other people's work and see if you can take it. And
right,
when you mishmash all the designs and you're experimenting every day, you'll kind of get a feel of your own design style.
Yeah. Hey, one quick thing before you take another question. I wanted to get this out there too.
Yeah.
As a UI UX designer, what you guys see in the Webflow community is great. All this stuff. What I could see myself using Webflow for also as a UI UX design professional is that at ADP we do a lot of prototyping, right?
Yeah.
And we do static image prototyping. So now if I'm able to use Webflow, if I'm working on like this calendar app, right? It's a calendar app or a calendar desktop app at ADP. And I need to show some interactions, and I can use Webflow to quickly prototype, some of my screens up, create some interactions, link stuff up. So though you could use Webflow, is amazing that you can use it as a freelance designer and create these beautiful one-off pages for small clients. But I could see it as a tool that I'm going to be using at ADP, for prototyping purposes. And it's not for clients, but it's for my work, and just adding more value to my company as a UI UX design professional. So many different facets on how you can use Webflow.
Yeah. And so when you're saying static type of prototypes with Webflow, just want to reiterate that it's better than static, because what happens when you hover over a button on a static JPEG?
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
When you hover over something that's actually built inside of Webflow to help prototype, you actually see what's going on. Rather than using another tool where you have to explain, when it hovers, it'll do this. I promise.
Right. and no, totally. And what I like to tell people is this: static prototypes is a game changer in itself. That if you can produce quickly static prototypes, that's also valuable. But there are times like, and because static prototypes will only take you 5-10 minutes, after your designs are done, just to kind of link them up in InVision or whatever.
Yeah.
But now, we built this app where we have these cells, and as you hover over a cell, you need to show this little plus sign as you hover over, right? And it creates little interactions. That stuff you can, I can't do that in InVision. I can't do that in, other prototyping tools, but you can do it in a tool like Webflow. So
nice. All right, let's take this is going to be the last website. Let me share the screen one more time. There we go. All right, this is a studio. Okay, this is a workout studio. Okay, great photography. Ooh, I like the what do you call it? Scan lines or something like that? Or is it dots? I think it's dots. I don't know if you can see it on your screen, Mike.
I can't see it, but I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, great dots.
Like a nice overlay, like kind of detailed overlay. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me more. Let's see how your drop downs are. Okay, cool. That's cool. They have a little hover effect, like animating down. Yeah.
Hey, one quick thing also, with anybody who has these sites are great, right? These sites are awesome, and they're building them in Webflow. Looks great. One thing I would tell people, be sure to focus on personal branding. When you're designing your personal portfolio, what I've seen so far, like these sites that you shown me, amazing, right?
Yeah.
If you would include, in addition to this, like some video of yourself, or start to kind of learn about the importance of personal branding, that will take your business, your freelance business, your professional career to another level.
Oh yeah.
That's one thing I didn't touch on. And you're doing it indirectly, Nelson, by all these videos and stuff and getting yourself out there. I did it with my videos. When people start to see and see your thoughts and understand who you are as a person and how you think, that combined with a good visual designed website would only catapult your business, to a whole nother level.
And that's what I always like to say when people are like, how do I make a great portfolio site? And I tell them, and I wrote a little Medium article about this, is tell your story first.
Right.
Sell the product later. So whenever I used to interview for web design positions at my last job, and being on the other side of the table really opened up my eyes. And whenever we get applicants, the portfolio sites would be super basic. It would be first name, last name, position, web designer, UI, UX designer, and then straight to the work. And I'm like, I want to know who this person is. I want to see your photo. I want to know why you got into the whole business. What is your story? Everyone has a different story. Tell me yours. And why are you in this weird web design industry that is so hard to keep up with? And so tell your story first, then sell your products after.
Right. And also I always tell aspiring designers, don't try to be a big business, right? Don't try to be a studio when you're just a solo guy, Just if you're Dan Smith, just be Dan Smith and show your work and show who you are and just be honest, right? Yeah. If you still live at home with moms, hey, you live at home with moms. If you live with a roommate, you live with a roommate. But I'm a designer. I could help you, design your site, and this is what I charge, etc. But you're not trying to be this big guy and this person that you're not, and scared because I don't have an office. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And nowadays, you don't even need an office.
You don't need an office.
I'm not in an office. I'm home studio, and it's more comfortable. All right, let's get. We got about 5 more minutes or so. Okay, so let me get probably 1 or 2 more questions. Let me see if I can find one here. Here's just a note. Nate says, been a fan of Mike for a while, so this is definitely my cup of tea. So there you go. Let's see here. Love Mike's simple philosophy from Omer. Alex is saying, thank you guys. I am humbled. No problem. It's a beautiful site, Alex. Keep on it. Show it off on our forums if you can. forum.webflow.com. Let's see here. I see nothing else. Okay, here we go. From Nate. Does Mike think it is still possible to get into a large company without a degree for web design? Okay, so we've already touched on that. Oh yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Just because they're a big name doesn't mean they need people with great creative minds.
You're right. Focus. My thing is for aspiring designers is learn your skills. Focus on fine-tune your discipline, right? Focus narrowly on a discipline. Don't try to spread yourself too thin. But focus. Companies want to know your experience, what you know about design, and your work, right? Yeah. You're not going to focus so much on a degree. And obviously, when you're starting out, you don't have the experience, and but just keep working at it, keep chipping away. Mm-hmm. You might land a job, at a junior position or a smaller position, but keep chipping away and keep building I call them personal projects, right? Just fictitious sites.
Yeah.
Just keep building those, and slowly but surely, you'll gain more experience, and companies won't ask you about your degree. They'll just be focusing on your experience and what you can do.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for all your tips. Thank you so much for being a part of the Webflow Workshop. It was really fun having you here. Let me give some shout outs. So if you want to check out his YouTube channel, let me put it in the chat room again. It is just Google search for ML Webco. MLWEBCO on YouTube. Also, it's the same domain name, mlwebco.com, for his personal site, and you can follow him on Twitter, mlwebco. I think that's about it. And there's a couple more questions, and so I don't know if you have time to take them.
I have time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, because these people have some really good questions, and so Omer is asking, how long should I stick around? How long should I stick around in my company before going to the next level?
Great, great, great
I like that
question.
one.
And this is for designers too. When I got started, I stayed at a company too long, for 7 years, because why I say too long is because when I started leaving and interviewing at other companies, they started paying me $10,000 more, $5,000 more, $10,000 more. You can't make that type of increase by staying at a company at 2% each year, right?
Yeah.
Unless they're going to pay you 10,000. So in this industry, if you're good, I would say one way to increase your salary, I mean, you have to, yeah, you don't want to be at a company for 3, 4 months, a year or so. But look around, continue to move up. If you land a job, if you just land your first job, don't stay there forever. Don't think this is what you're going to retire in. Keep working on your portfolio, because what I've learned is when I left my first company, other companies were willing to pay me $10,000 more, $10,000 more. And I felt bad, but I'm like, dude, this is great. This is going to help my family out,
Yeah.
And it's like, so if somebody's going to pay me another $15,000 more and I've only been with this company for this long, it's like, I got to do what I got to do,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you stick around wherever you're happy, like right now I'm happy. My job is really flexible at ADP. They pay me well, but like I was at CBS for 10 months when the recruiter at ADP reached out to me, and I was like, you know what, I want to work on more business apps,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, and they paid me a little more. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. But I didn't jump
Yeah.
at the time. I didn't jump around just for money. But when you're starting out, hey, don't feel you have to stick around, for any time. If another company is out there willing to hire you and
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna pay you a little bit more,
Huh.
go for it.
Okay. Agent
Yeah.
Cell is asking, when will your new site be ready?
Soon. I'm working on a new site. It's going to be ready, and I'm going to talk about how I'm integrating it and what I've done with WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't give a date now because, man, I have kids and a
Oh
life,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
the minute I give you a date, my wife will say, "We got to do this and we got to do that," and I can't get to it. So
Hmm.
soon it'll be coming up
Okay.
soon, and just know this. I'm serious about Webflow. I don't talk about stuff just to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't talk about, you guys aren't paying me for this or anything like that. So I talk about tools that I actually use. And going forward, you will hear me talk a lot about Webflow on my site, on my YouTube channel. And the more that I can use it, the more that I can share, I'm going to share it with the community. So
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Great to hear. All right, last question, and I think this is really good. So, YouTube45 says, can age be a factor? Gaining a position in a major company, 40 plus, I'm guessing he's 45,
Right.
or should I stick to freelance work?
Right. No. Um, Yes, I have a video on this exact topic because I get a lot of questions about this. And the answer is, don't worry about age. Always focus on trying to stay current with the times. What I mean by that is, as older guys, we may be accustomed to doing things our old way, right?
Yeah,
And then the latest and greatest design technique might be material design, right?
yeah,
Or flat UI design, but we're kind of stuck in our old ways and we don't want to transition over to that type of style.
mm-hmm.
If you're 40, 45, 50, doesn't matter. A lot of these directors in these companies, they're around that age anyway, because we kind of started, it's okay to be an older employee, older person as a designer. You just have to make sure that your design techniques and your design styles are current with the latest and greatest. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Too often, I see it in my company as well, ADP. We have a lot of older folks who stick around ADP because it's a good company. They've been there for 15 years, right?
yeah,
15, 20 years. And some of them are UX designers, but their design styles are kind of outdated. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
And so I'm 40, but I feel like I'm 21, so
yeah,
19. But so I try to design with whatever is latest and greatest. So if this particular technique, I just stay on Dribble, right? You look on
yeah,
Dribble and you see what people are liking. So if things are turning that way, if you're designing that way, then your age won't matter, really.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean, when you look at sites, it's not about, oh, how old is this designer?
no,
It's, is this site really modern? Does it get the job done?
right,
Have does it use techniques to get the end user the information that they are looking for? And that's all
right,
web
and,
design is. I'm a
yeah,
user, I'm going to a website, I need information, and I'm done.
right, right. Just
Yeah.
know the profession. Know that you have to, if you provide a
Yeah.
value at what's current, you will be looked at as that. But I always tell people, you got to be honest. Like if I went to McDonald's and start to apply for a job,
Mm-hmm.
they'll look at me and they'll say, there'll be a kid say, man, that guy's kind of old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of old to be trying to get a job here. But that's life, right? That's reality. You might have some people who might say, oh, you're older than I am, and this, but you know what? That's just life in general, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But in web design, it's like, it's a little different. Directors are my age or older, right?
Mm-hmm.
Folks that I work with are my age. I kind of grew up with people who are my age and who are now VPs and folks, a lot of folks are my age. So you can be, it's actually harder for older guys and younger guys, because
Yeah.
even the 19-year-old kids, they get discriminated against because they're just kids,
Yeah.
right. So, and then if you're thinking you're too old, you might feel you're discriminated because you're too old. But it's kind of like,
Yeah, we're all on
no
the
one
same.
knows.
We're all on the same level when it comes to web design. It's
Right,
about the
right,
pixels and the information on how you organize those pixels. It's nothing to do with your age. So if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, and you're still cranking out modern web design and you're keeping up with tools and trends, then it doesn't matter. Just keep at it and keep that hustle going. Thank you so much, Mike. This has been so much fun. I got to go
fine,
through all
buddy.
my sign off notes. So here we go. Again, my name is Nelson. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Webflow app. If you want to follow us on Facebook, go ahead and like us. It's facebook.com/Webflow. You can always hit me up on Twitter at The Pixel Geek. And if you have any account billing technical issues, you can hit me up or the rest of the customer support team at support@webflow.com. For all design issues, or you just want to show off what you're doing, go to forum.webflow.com. Lots of helpful people in the community, lots of awesome stuff that people are creating. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much, Mike. This has been eye-opening. This has been fun. I can't wait to see what you build in your website. Yeah,
Appreciate it.
keep in touch, man.
We will stay in touch, and as I start to do more things, I'll tweet at you and we'll talk and more.
Yay, yay.
We'll
Thank you
do it
so much.
again, like months from now. We'll do this again.
Sure, you're welcome here anytime. Thank you so much. And as a usual sign off, I'd like to tell everyone thank you so much for being in the chat room. The people who are in there, there's so much, a lot of people today. Thank you so much for being here and giving us your questions, really awesome questions. And your websites are awesome. Keep at it. And as always, make the web beautiful. I'll see you guys next week.